I am Evelyn Carter, 29 years old, and 6 months ago, my life changed forever when my apartment burned down in the middle of the night, destroying 7 years of memories in just a few hours. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the sound of the smoke alarm screaming through the darkness, the air thick with a harsh chemical smell as smoke filled my lungs before my mind could even understand what was happening. Fire. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and ran barefoot through a hallway filled with black smoke, glowing orange from flames somewhere below, slammed into the stairwell door, and rushed down 4 flights of stairs, every breath burning like knives in my chest. When I burst outside into the freezing February air, I stood shaking in thin pajamas and watched flames pouring out of my 4th-floor window, Unit 4B, my home. A firefighter approached me and told me quietly that everything inside was gone. In that moment, the word gone felt unreal because inside that apartment were 7 years of my life, photos of my grandparents, the guitar my late stepfather gave me when I was 16, my college diploma, my laptop with every project and memory since I left home. Sitting on the curb wrapped in a stranger's blanket, I called the only people I believed would help, my parents. After 8 rings, my mother answered with annoyance in her voice, and when I told her my apartment had burned down and I had nowhere to go, she simply said, "That's unfortunate." Then she handed the phone to my stepfather, Richard, who responded with the 5 words that would echo in my mind forever. "Not our problem. Be more careful." He hung up, leaving me alone in the cold while the sun slowly rose behind clouds of smoke. At first, I tried to believe the fire was just a terrible accident, but a week later, the insurance company told me something that didn't make sense. My parents, Richard and Patricia Carter, had been listed as the sole beneficiaries on my renter's insurance policy, a form I had never signed. Soon after that, fire investigator Marcus Webb asked me a simple question that changed everything. Who had access to my apartment the week before the fire? Only one person besides me, my mother, who had unexpectedly visited 5 days earlier for the first time in 2 years, walking through every room, touching things and asking questions. At the time, I had been happy she came, but now that memory felt wrong. While I stayed temporarily with my coworker Jason, who kindly gave me his spare room and a cup of coffee without asking questions, I went to the insurance office where a representative named Greg showed me the policy documents. There, on the last page, was a beneficiary form naming my parents to receive $150,000 if anything happened to my property, and beneath it was a signature that looked exactly like mine, except I knew I had never signed it. Greg explained the form had been submitted 6 months earlier, and a fire investigator had already contacted the company asking about it. When I later met Marcus Webb at a coffee shop, he told me the fire patterns showed clear signs of arson. The point of origin was near an electrical outlet, but there was no evidence of electrical failure, meaning someone had deliberately started the fire. Entry logs from the building's electronic locks showed that during the week before the fire, only 2 people had access to my apartment, me and a woman matching my mother's description. Meanwhile, my mother began calling relatives, claiming I was mentally unstable after losing my home, and even contacted my workplace anonymously to question my mental fitness for work, trying to destroy my credibility before I could accuse her of anything. With the help of a lawyer named Diana Reeves, we analyzed the insurance form and found hesitation marks in the signature, proving it was forged. The insurance office clerk even identified my mother from a photo lineup as the woman who had submitted the paperwork, claiming she was handling documents for her daughter. Security cameras in my building then revealed something even more disturbing. Footage showed my mother entering my apartment hallway carrying a large black bag at 2:07 p.m. and leaving 3 hours without it, even though she had told me she stayed only 30 minutes. Fire investigators later recovered charred fragments of a digital timer device near the outlet where the fire began, the kind used to automatically turn appliances on after a delay. Store records traced the timer to a hardware shop near my parents' house, and security footage from the store showed a woman who looked exactly like my mother purchasing it with cash 8 days before the fire. 3 days later, my mother invited the entire family to a gathering at her house, pretending it was to support me after my loss, but clearly planning to present me as unstable in front of everyone before I could speak the truth. When I arrived, 15 relatives were already there, watching me with pity as my mother gave an emotional speech about how I had been accusing my own parents of causing the fire because I couldn't cope with losing everything. I stayed calm and said nothing, letting her finish her performance. Then stepped outside and met Marcus, who showed me the final evidence, the camera footage, the timer device fragments, and confirmation that a warrant had been approved. When I walked back into the house, I asked my mother one simple question in front of everyone: why she stayed in my apartment for 3 hours when she claimed it was 30 minutes, and what happened to the black bag she carried inside. The room fell silent as her composure cracked. At that exact moment, the doorbell rang, and Marcus Webb entered with 2 police officers. In front of my entire family, he arrested Patricia Carter for second-degree arson and insurance fraud. Richard tried to deny involvement, but quickly broke under pressure and admitted they were drowning in gambling debt, and Patricia had come up with the plan to burn my apartment for the insurance money, believing no one would get hurt. The evidence, security footage, the forged signature, witness identification, and the timer device made the case undeniable. My mother eventually pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in state prison, while Richard received probation after agreeing to testify against her. The insurance company redirected the $150,000 payout back to me, the rightful beneficiary, and the court granted a restraining order preventing either of them from contacting me for 10 years. In the months that followed, I started therapy, moved into a smaller but safer apartment, bought a new guitar, and slowly rebuilt my life with the help of people who actually cared: Jason, Aunt Margaret, and a few others who apologized for believing my mother's lies. 2 months later, a letter arrived from prison where Patricia asked me to visit and tried to explain that desperation over Richard's gambling debts drove her actions. But I chose not to answer and blocked further contact. 6 months after the fire, I realized something important. The flames destroyed everything I owned, but they also revealed the truth about the people around me. Family is not defined by blood, but those who stand beside you when everything falls apart. My mother tried to burn down my life for money, but she failed because I finally stopped protecting people who would never protect me. The fire took my belongings, my memories, and the illusion that family always means safety, but it gave me something stronger: freedom, clarity, and the courage to rebuild a life that truly belongs to me.